Hey students, I want to welcome you to this presentation on blocks and building. Other times this semester, we are looking at different areas within the early childhood classroom, including the dramatic play area, as well as the art center. But this one is focusing on blocks and buildings. I want to start off by reading a quick quote that I think summarizes very nicely about blocks. It says, blocks, especially hardwood unit blocks, are standard equipment in early childhood classrooms. Wooden blocks appeal to young children because they are symmetrical, proportional, and invite open-ended exploration. When children construct, create, and represent experiences with blocks, they progress in each area of development and learning. Now we're going to look at some of these areas of development and learning. First, we're going to look at social emotional and see how block play supports social emotional development. First of all, children negotiate the use of materials. They learn how to share. Children also negotiate the space to figure out how many children can play comfortably in the area. Some teachers like to designate that a block area is good for 4 children or 6 children or whatever seems to fit well. Sometimes I like to take with older children and say, how many kids do you think could play there well together? And let children work on figuring that out and negotiating that space. Children care for materials and follow rules for building safely. So there's got to be a lot of rules for the block area. We want these to be very practical rules just designed to keep children and materials safe. Another social emotional thing that kids get in the block area is they exchange ideas and come to a consensus of what they want to build and how they want to build it. Sometimes this coming to a consensus is a very difficult thing because each child wants to build what they want to build. So sometimes they can kind of get their ideas hooked together as what they want to build, or they can agree that today we'll build your structure and tomorrow we'll build what I'm interested in building. Children will also learn how to respect others' viewpoints and ideas. We can learn that not my own idea is always the best idea, but maybe the idea that somebody else has is the one that would be good to build upon. Block play also promotes physical development. Small muscles in children develop when they carry and carefully place blocks together. Similarly, children gain large muscle strength when they use and they move hollow blocks. And we're going to learn about those kind of blocks in a few minutes. Children also gain eye-hand coordination when they carefully balance blocks so that they will not tumble. This is a very important skill for children to develop, just that coordination of their mind and their eyes and their hands working together. Next, we're going to focus on language and literacy and how block play promotes language and literacy. First of all, children are very willing to talk about their constructions when adults ask questions and show genuine interest. It's really important that we ask open-ended questions such as, can you tell me what you're working on? Rather than a closed-ended question that's not going to elicit a very lengthy response. Children's vocabulary also expands when adults tell them new words to describe their structures. Adults might model words such as foundation, balance, symmetrical or symmetric, parallel, etc. When we use these words to describe children's structures, we're helping to build the children's vocabulary. Children practice writing skills when they make signs for their buildings. So older children especially may want to make signs and they're practicing their spelling and their writing skills. Next, we want to look at how block play promotes cognitive development. Children learn about shape, size, number, order, area, length, patterns, weight, balance, and cause and effect when they select, build, and put blocks away. So a lot of cognitive things that children can learn. Children develop problem-solving skills as they make adjustments to their structure to strengthen their building. Children also develop mathematical skills and science skills as they see how the blocks relate to each other fractionally and as they use STEM skills, which are science, technology, engineering, and math. And creative development. Children practice creativity as they use open-ended blocks in new and unique ways. Children also demonstrate creativity as they combine blocks with the accessories that you've provided, such as building a house for people or building a barn for farm animals. Next, we're going to talk about some principles for setting up the block area. Let's review some guidelines together. First of all, you want to provide lots of space. Generally, the block area is about the largest space in the classroom. Usually doubles as the space where group time happens because that's where the most children can fit at one time. You want to provide a solid foundation for children to build upon. Oftentimes, a low nap carpet is best for building and for deadening the sound. You want to make sure that you place the block area in a noisier part of your classroom, separate from quieter activities. For example, I wouldn't want to have a block area right next to a reading corner because children would not be able to concentrate on reading or hear a teacher read if the block area was right next to the reading area. You want to provide adequate shelves that are going to store the blocks and the accessories that you're providing. Another kind of a cool thing to do is to include a no building zone right by the shelves to keep the blocks and accessories accessible. A good way to do this is to place some tape on the floor, kind of marking out a space where you're not going to build, and that way children can still access the blocks even when building is taking place. Kind of picture this like in front of a store, how they have the no parking fire lane. We want to create a no building lane right by our block shelf as well. Another cool thing to do is to post motivational pictures of buildings, bridges, etc. in your block area to inspire children's building. Shown here are 4 such pictures that you might want to include. We see a neat looking bridge, skyscrapers, a house under construction, as well as a fancy roadway. So these might give kids some inspiration of things that they'd like to build in the block area. Continuing with guidelines, we want to provide word and picture labels on the shelves to promote independence and responsibility. The block area tends to be one of the more difficult areas to clean up because there are so many blocks. So anything that we can do to make it easier for kids to pick up, we want to make sure to do that. As mentioned earlier, we want to offer writing materials for sign making. Children may want to make signs showing who the builder was. They may want to make signs telling people what they've built, etc. So it's nice to have writing materials for sign making. Another important thing to do is to keep it fresh. Just as you want to do every area in your classroom, keep it fresh. In the block area, we're going to rotate the blocks and accessories regularly so children can have new experiences with the things that they're building with. Another important suggestion is to be a play partner. We want to play with kids in the block area. We want to be sure to follow the children's leads and help them build what they're thinking of. We can also offer some ideas and suggestions as needed to keep play moving. We may also want to include books that show pictures of bridges, buildings, etc., again for that inspiration and motivation of the children. Another thing to keep in mind is that we may want to allow for extended building projects lasting longer in the day or from day to day. Sometimes children have built so hard on a structure and you really don't want to take it down just so you can go outside. So you might want to give them the opportunity to keep the structure up so they can work on it later or work on it the next day if space allows. Few more guidelines. Think outside of the box, which in this case is the classroom. Think about how you can offer block play on your playground as well. At the center where I worked, we built a large block stage. I think it was about 15 feet by 15 feet, and it was essentially a big square deck, and we had a cabinet on that deck that included outdoor blocks. The children could take the blocks out, they could build on this good solid foundation and use it year round. So this was a really neat thing that we did. Summertime was very fun because we also had a hose and gutters, and we could integrate that together so the children would make a structure out of the blocks, put the gutters on top of it, and then hook the hose up and watch the water cascade down the gutters. So you can make a lot of neat things if you have block area outside. We're going to next look at some pictures of some example block areas. So this shows one picture and we see a couple block shelves as well as a couple accessory shelves. Here are the accessory shelves a little bit closer up. We see the black arrows on here, and they point to, on the left, they point of a cutout of that arch block, just showing children that's where they go. And then on the right, we see that there are street signs there, along with a picture of the street signs with the word written underneath it. The shelf on the right there shows some different props that they have available for construction play. So kids might want to wear hard hats. Looks like there's vests there, some cans for painting, some cones, different tools in the bottom. So a bunch of different stuff there is there to really stimulate children's block play and engagement. The picture on the left here shows some books that you might want to include in your block area, showing signs, skyscraper, bridge, construction tools, what it's like to be a construction worker, etc. So neat things to have in the block area. And then on the right, at the top, you see some clipboards and some writing utensils so children can make signs. I also see a book there that a teacher probably made with some ideas of things that you can build in the block area. So kind of some neat ideas to make the block area a cool area to be. This is from another classroom, I think perhaps a Montessori classroom, and here they have blocks with the shelves in it. So makes it a little bit harder to see what you're getting, but probably makes cleanup a lot easier. And there's just a lot of different blocks and some arches, and I see tree blocks down at the bottom. So a lot of neat building options, as well as some books up on the top. This shows another area, and this must be a construction theme where there's a instrument for measuring down there. There's some logs, there are some pictures on the wall, with some construction signs, etc. So another neat block area. This one shows more of a natural block area. So rather than being the machine cut blocks that we've seen on the previous pages, here we see a lot of logs and cut into different sizes. So not uniform in length or dimension, but these would be fun to build with as well. A similar kind of shelf on the outdoor playground. So here it's neat that they have a wire shelf because then when it rains, the rain can drip right through until it evaporates. They've got some trucks and some different outdoor building blocks that they can use in their block area. I also see that they have a little bit of grassy area nearby, as well as it looks like some concrete to build on. These are some outdoor blocks made by a company called Community Playthings, and they're blocks that are made to last a long, long time outside. So very neat. Here the kids are being adventurous and dumping water down different ramps into tubs. Another picture of blocks made by that same company. This shows their mud kitchen to the right, a sensory table kind of in the middle, and various neat things that they have for outdoor play and learning. Next, we're going to look at types of blocks that you would want to include in the block area, and I have several different types that we're going to explore. First of all, are unit blocks. These are kind of the block basics that you want to make sure you have in every classroom for young children. This shows the various sizes that are available, and we're going to look even closer at that. So the basic block is the one in the upper right, and it is called a unit block. It's about 3.5 inches long, probably 1.5 to 2 inches wide. And then there's the half unit next to that, the double unit, which is twice of the unit, and the quadruple unit, which is 4 of the basic unit shown at the top. Some other shapes include the pillar, the columns that are large and small, as well as a ramp. And even more unique shapes are shown here. The unit arch and the half circle are shown, as well as an arch and a buttress. So those were unit blocks we just looked at. These are called hollow blocks, and these are a little bit heavier, but kids can make some really cool things using hollow blocks. They like to make things that people can go inside of. So hollow blocks are an important part in classrooms, usually in classrooms of older children that really have the strength to carry these blocks because they're pretty heavy. This shows some pictures of the hollow blocks as well. And then these came out a few years back. They're called mini hollow blocks. So they're simple. They're like the hollow blocks, but much smaller and much more lightweight. So I've had these in classrooms with 2-year-olds, and they've worked just fine for 2-year-olds to build with because they're smaller and easier to carry and handle. Some other types of blocks you might see. There's kind of a Lego type block over here on the left that you can construct with, and on the right are some cardboard blocks. Cardboard blocks, the advantage is they're very lightweight and pretty inexpensive. The disadvantage, they're not as durable, and children really can't stand on them as they can on many of the other block types. On the left here, we see some foam blocks. I put these in the water table before along with water, which is kind of neat because they float. And then when they get wet, they kind of stick to each other, kind of have a suction property together. And then tree blocks are pictured here. So they make the tree blocks proportionate as well, so that you can build things out of them that are symmetrical and don't easily tip over. Another kind of block that I just came across, these are actually made out of a foam, so they're not heavy concrete like they look, but those look like a fun block to build with. And here's some more outdoor blocks that you could use. These are called waffle blocks, and you may have seen the small waffle blocks. The fun ones are fun to build with as well. We had a few sets of these at the center I worked at, and kids like to build big rectangular boxes that a child would go in. So the child would be brave, and they would go inside, and they would close it around them. And of course, the child could still breathe and everything, and we were supervising, but a very fun experience for the kids. We also use these to make kind of a path. We would lay them all flat on the ground, interlock together, and it would become kind of a walkway that the kids could walk on. Some more outdoor blocks are pictured here. Again, these are made out of the wood that can withstand a lot of rain and snow and stuff like that. They have ramps for rolling balls on, and there are little holes in the blocks as well that the little pegs can insert. So kind of a neat block design. So next we're going to look at some accessories that you would want to include in your block area. Blocks are the first and most important part of it, the foundation, but you also want to include some accessories. So here I have pictured 4 different families. You'll note that the families have very large feet that allows them to stand up when kids are playing with them. You'll also notice that the families are different skin colors, different ages. So it's really neat to be able to represent diversity in your block area. And an easy way to do it is to have different ages, different races, all together. Continuing with the idea of diversity, here we have children from throughout the world dressed in their kind of native clothing, as well as people on the left showing some disabilities that people have. So it's always nice in an early childhood classroom to have the ability to let children see people that are similar to them and people that are different than them so they can start to value and appreciate everybody. Shown here are some vehicles. Over on the left, we have some cars and trucks of different types. And on the right, I see some boats and trucks and helicopters and an airplane. Animals are another favorite. You can have different kinds of animals. Pictured here are some farm animals and some zoo animals. I've seen jungle animals, all kinds of different stuff. Sea animals is another one. And then you can have other creative accessories. So on the left here, we see a block play elevator that kids can turn the screw and make the elevator go up and down. And then on the right, we see some kind of planks with some raised edges on them for making different ramps. So kids can experiment and see what happens when I make a ramp that is at this height. What happens when I make a ramp that is steeper? What happens when I make one that is more shallow? So they're learning about things like pitch and slope and various STEM things like that. Other creative accessories shown here are some street signs that you can have when kids are making roads, as well as some buildings that go nicely with the different vehicles pictured on the prior page. Next, we're going to explore the teacher's role in block play. First and foremost, to keep children safe. So you want some simple safety rules that the children can understand and the children can follow. Um, Big ones in my center were that blocks were for building, so we would make sure the kids knew and stated affirmatively that we build with blocks. Other simple rules we had is when we were building, we only build as high as our chin. We don't want to build anything higher. We don't want to really risk anybody getting hit in the head with a block. So it's really balancing the play value and the risk and just trying to keep kids safe in the block area. Another thing for you to do as a teacher in all areas is to always anticipate what could go wrong there, and then what could I do to steer clear of any problems there. So if I see that kids are building a stage and I see that the stage is pretty wobbly and it's not going to hold children up, then I would want to intervene and ask them what they could do to build it more sturdy so it could withstand the weight of a child. Another thing to do is to help children negotiate space. Sometimes children get really involved in building, and we really want to protect those buildings for them. So really help protect it from other kids walking through or unintentional damage. So we might want to move a shelf to block what they're doing. We might want to put some safety cones around it, but different things that we can do to help negotiate that space and keep their structure safe. Another important thing to do as teachers, really in all areas, is to give children adequate notice before it's cleanup time. So it's good to say, hey, boys and girls, we've got 10 more minutes to play, then we're going to get ready for snack. So we give them adequate notice. Otherwise, it seems really fair if all of a sudden we say, oh, your time is finished, but they weren't given notice. Another thing you may want to do is to explore with the children, talk with the children to see if they want to continue building after snack, after group time, after outdoor time, etc. So really talk to them and see if they're finished now or if they want to build more later. Another important thing to do is to help make cleanup a doable task, something that the children can achieve with the assistance of a teacher or two. So some ways to do this, you might say if you've got animals out and square blocks out and rectangle blocks out, you might ask one child to be in charge of the animals, another to be in charge of the square blocks, another one in charge of the triangles, etc. Just so everybody has a job and we can finish the task working together as a team. Another thing you want to do as a teacher is to observe what children are doing and make meaningful comments. I might say, I see you're building a very tall structure. Can you tell me more about it? So this is an open-ended question asking for a longer response from a child. I might say, I see you have used a variety of shapes. I can see rectangles, squares, cylinders, and triangles. So we're naming them, we're giving them vocabulary by naming the different blocks that they're using. We might say, I wonder what you could do to fix that problem of your structure falling down. So we're kind of prompting the child to think about what could I do differently that would make this a stronger structure. Another thing we want to do in the block area as well as elsewhere is affirm children for their creativity, imagination, hard work, perseverance, how well they've cooperated together, etc. Whenever we affirm children, it makes it much more likely that that same positive behavior is going to recur in the future. So make sure we're affirming children. Affirmation of perseverance is a really big one in the block area. When a child builds something and it topples, they build it again and it topples, but they keep trying and trying and trying different things to get what they want. So they're really demonstrating perseverance, which is a good thing for all people to have. Continuing with observing and making meaningful comments, we might say, you found out that two of these blocks makes one long block. So we're basing it on the units, the double units, the quadruple units, etc., showing children how blocks relate together mathematically. I might say, you used more than 10 blocks to make the road. Here I'm showing children that we can estimate numbers. You used more than 10 blocks. I didn't actually count them, I'm just estimating. I might say, all the blocks you used in the road are the same size. Or I might affirm them by saying, you worked carefully to be sure that the blocks you built wouldn't fall down. So affirming that carefulness, that perseverance, that thoughtfulness. We talked about some things to say. Here are some things to avoid saying. We want to avoid comments like, that's a nice building, or you did a good job. When we say comments like that, they don't say much about what the child has done or give them a chance to explain anything, as would an open-ended question. They also imply that the child's purpose in building is to make something that is nice or something that is good or something that is pleasing to the teacher. We're going to conclude today's lesson by learning about stages of block play. 4 stages we're going to focus on. First one is carrying blocks. Children who haven't played with blocks may simply move the blocks around with their hands or by loading them in a truck. Children are learning physical properties of blocks such as hardness, they're learning the weight of blocks, the shape of blocks, the color that they are, whether they're smooth or rough, etc. They're just exploring blocks and learning about them. The second stage is piling blocks and making roads. Children build towers by piling blocks on top of another. Young children, in my experience, tend to be knocker-downers. It's more pleasurable to knock down a structure than it is to build it up, whereas older children tend to be builder-uppers, where they like to build and build and build. So it's important that when I'm working with mixed ages in a classroom, that I provide a safe space for the builder-uppers to build and also provide opportunities for the knocker-downers to build short structures, knock them down, build them again, and knock them down. In this stage too, children also place blocks flat on the floor as if they were making roads. Children may combine these roads of their building with vehicles if you've made them available. Stage 3 is connecting blocks to build structures. First of all comes bridging. This is when children set up two blocks, they leave a space between them, and they connect them with another block. Children in this stage also make enclosures. They put blocks together to enclose a space. Later, the enclosure may be used for dramatic play with zoo animals, farm animals, vehicles, etc. Children often like to make garages as well for their vehicles. Making enclosures helps children think about mathematical concepts, particularly the area. If they're looking at a whole fleet of vehicles and they want to make them fit, they're going to have to really think about how much area they need in their garage so all the vehicles will fit. The fourth stage are elaborate structures. Experienced builders are able to put blocks together with dexterity and skill. During this stage, children need a variety of block shapes and sizes to make their structures more elaborate. So as we saw earlier on, there's a lot of different blocks that are available, and children at this stage really benefit from having a lot of those so they can really add some ornate decorations to their building. Children in this stage may also want to make signs so others will know what they've built as well as know who the builders were. In our in-class presentation, we watched this video, which is a nice, almost 4-minute long video, kind of showing the teacher's role in block play. And then we also went to questions and discussion. So since you're watching this as a video, if you do have any questions, please be sure to see me. Thank you.